What'd it do? I immediately apologize for that. Let's try that again. What's good? There it is. So in my last video, I said this. And I just think that's a pretty cool thought, that immensely frustrating period of time resulted in me making one of my favorite videos. And I just hope I can keep that perspective as I try to deal with all the other frustrating aspects of my life. Well, time to put those words to the test, because guess what? I'm frustrated. Again. But to be fair to myself, I also said this because I am not out of the woods yet, nor do I think I'll ever really be. There'll always be roadblocks and there'll always be frustration. So I kind of already knew this was coming. But I think this situation is a little bit different because this is a roadblock that I've been dealing with for the past 9 months. This is something that I've been working on literally since I got out of my depressive cycle and started making videos. And it's something that I've seen little to no progress on. So what is this particular roadblock? Well, that would be my literal physical appearance. That's right. I, like so many others, am not satisfied with how I look, specifically with the amount of fat on my body. Now, I don't want to blow this out of proportion. I have to be thankful that this is even the type of roadblock that I'm dealing with, and that it's not something way more consequential, like not having enough food to eat or not having a roof over my head. So is this a huge deal? No, and I want to make sure I don't portray it as such. Nevertheless, this is something that I've been working diligently on for almost a year, and yet I haven't really made any noticeable improvements, hence my frustration. And so now I'm just trying to listen to myself and maintain the hope that if I can make it past this roadblock, I'll have something to show for it. But I've been maintaining that hope for 9 months now, and I'm starting to get tired of hoping. And now I'm starting to feel some very familiar feelings. And then I get caught up in the feelings of anger, resentment, despair, and apathy, and I think to myself, well, fine. If it's all pointless anyway, bring on the junk food. You know what? I don't need to work out today, or write a script, or exert any effort towards any of my aspirations whatsoever. And having all of these thoughts and emotions swirling around in my head brings me to a frightening place that I am all too familiar with, because your advice, while being true, completely disregards the frustration of beating your head against the wall for long periods of time, trying to achieve something and getting absolutely nowhere. At that point, I believe it makes sense to want to quit. And I do. If I'm being honest, I am yet again at that point where I want to quit. Again, it's been 9 months. Look, I know that probably everyone else on this planet has experienced what it's like to dedicate yourself to something over a period of time as long as or longer than 9 months, and to not see the results that you were aiming for when you started. But this is probably the longest that I've ever spent trying to achieve a single goal with this level of dedication. I mean, I used to play sports where we'd spend 3 to 6 months at a time trying to win a championship or get promoted to a higher division. And yeah, it'd be heartbreaking when we didn't achieve our goals. And obviously in school we'd have year-long projects that we work on, and those would involve anywhere from 6 to 8 months of work. But in both of those scenarios, it's not like I was literally working on those long-term projects every single day. Depending on the sport, I'd have practice 2 to 4 times a week and play games on the weekend. And in school, I usually wouldn't start those projects until the week before it was due. Don't look at me like that. I know you did the same thing. But now, this particular goal I've been working towards, to change my physical appearance, has completely consumed me, and I think about it literally every day. Every chance I get, I'm watching videos from channels like Calisthenic Movement or Shredded Sports Science about how to change your body composition. And to the best of my ability, I've tried to incorporate their advice into my diet and exercise routines, going so far as to completely overhaul these routines several times. I've spent an irresponsible amount of time thinking to myself, okay, well, maybe if I add this exercise, or maybe I should get rid of this one, or this exercise is helpful, but it doesn't really burn enough calories, etc., etc. And I can't help it, because every day I have to look at myself in the mirror and be disappointed and ashamed with what I see. And I don't want to feel like that anymore. If you know me, you know that I'm not really present on social media. I don't have Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat or TikTok or any of those. So I'm not out here trying to look like Chris Hemsworth or The Rock or any other body type that's heavily promoted on these apps. I just want to look like what I feel like I'm supposed to look like, if that makes sense. Basically, I just don't want to be disappointed or ashamed anymore when I look in the mirror. And so to set out with this goal 9 months ago and to still feel disappointed and ashamed today, knowing the amount of work that's been done in that time frame, leaves me with a feeling of complete and utter defeat. I mean, to use my own terminology, this is the longest tunnel I've had to deal with while making these videos. The time I've spent in this particular tunnel engulfs all the other tunnels I made videos about. The writer's block I experienced lasted a little over a month, the negative emotion saga spanned a period of 2 months, etc. To continue the video game analogy that I brought up in my roasting myself existentially for being awkward in front of a camera video, this kind of feels like the boss battle. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to try to take everything I learned from those smaller battles and apply them. And so I tried to do that, but it didn't really feel like it helped. Like, for example, in my stagnation video, I said this. And so that begs the question, how do I deal with this stagnation? And what I've been doing to cope is really straightforward. I've just been making little adjustments. But that's the thing. I've made countless little adjustments to my workout plan over these past 9 months, some of which I've actually documented in these videos. And as I thought about those workouts, I started to imagine them alongside the strength training and the skill training sections of my workout, and a viable picture of what they would all look like together started to take form. And long story short, I've been at it for a couple days now, and so far so good. But now I feel as if I'm running out of adjustments to make. And even if I'm not, I no longer get excited about the potential benefits of trying something new. I feel like I'm getting jaded because I've tried so many different approaches and all of them have just led me here to a point where I need to yet again try a new approach. So what point is there in getting excited about a new approach anymore? 9 months of evidence is telling me that any adjustment I make also won't work and that it'll eventually just lead to me having to make another adjustment down the line. So what do I do? So keep moving. As frustrating as it is, keep moving. Whatever direction, however minuscule the step, just keep moving. Dude, I mean, but that's not enough. Like, if I was talking to someone who was experiencing a similar kind of anger, I wouldn't tell them, just keep going, which is what I'm telling myself right now. That may be the truth of what they need to do, but I don't think that advice would help them to actually keep going in that moment. Like, I would rather be able to say something to them in that moment that would alleviate the intense emotions that they're going through so that they can just keep going. I don't know if that even makes sense. Oh, it makes sense, because even as I tell myself to just keep moving, those words do absolutely nothing to alleviate the thoughts that I was talking about before, about my onsetting jadedness and disillusionment with this whole process. So why should I just keep moving? It's just that the unfortunate reality is that if you quit, you end up like me, stuck in a situation that is exactly where you don't want to be, which for me is the fact that I am a 29-year-old broke college dropout with a busted car living at home, unable to sustain myself. Okay, well, that's at least a little bit compelling, because at the end of the day, I am not in my ideal situation. And even though quitting my diet and exercise routines doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't be able to improve those specific circumstances that I just outlined, that hope I have of not being ashamed of myself when I look in the mirror will definitely disappear if I were to capitulate on everything again. So for that reason alone, it makes sense not to quit on this. But that still doesn't address the disillusionment. At the end of the day, I'm still telling myself to just keep making little adjustments, like I've been doing for the past 9 months. Sure, I can make myself refocus on the task and what would happen if I were to fail in achieving it. And that can do a little bit to motivate me to continue moving forward. But that doesn't make taking the actual steps I need to take to reach my goal any easier. So what can I do to alleviate some of these thoughts and feelings? I hope the video I make will include me laughing at myself over my disillusionment regarding the entire situation, and won't include me being legitimately down in the dumps over it like I was in my turning 30 video. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I don't get it. All I'm saying is I don't want to take myself so seriously anymore, because I think that'll help me get over some of the issues I've been dealing with over the past decade. Okay, but how is not taking myself so seriously gonna help me to not feel so disillusioned with this whole process or feel ashamed of how I look? Well, like I said earlier, I think comedy is the most effective way to highlight these absurdities. Why? Because it takes the sting out of the very harsh and very painful process of having to come to terms with your own flaws and imperfections. Like the OG herself, Mary Poppins, once said, "A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down." And I believe comedy is that sugar. I think it's so much easier to acknowledge your shortcomings when you can laugh about them. okay, I mean, that's all well and good. And I have to admit that since I made that video, there have been times where I've been able to alleviate some of those thoughts and feelings by finding a reason to laugh at myself. But ultimately, this is so much easier said than done, especially when it comes to situations where the frustration is dialed up to 11. Because I just can't really find the humor when it's day 226 of this diet and workout plan, and I look at myself in the mirror and I realize I look the exact same as I did 6 months ago. It's exactly in those moments that the anger and resentment start to well up inside me. And before you even start, I already know what you're gonna say, so just don't. So ultimately, I think it's really important for me to learn how to get through these tunnels without resorting to anger and resentment, because that will, 1, help me to avoid harmful coping mechanisms that jeopardize my personal progress. 2, allow me to be the person that I want to be, not just when things are going well, but also when I'm going through these tunnels. And 3, spend less time in these tunnels. I know, dude, I know, but feelings are involuntary. I can't just choose not to feel angry or resentful about something. I can't just think to myself, you know what? I'm not angry about this. I don't feel any resentment about having to give up things that I enjoy and take pleasure in so that I can feel good about myself. Or having to commit to restrictive diet and exercise plans only to realize that 9 months later, I haven't really made any progress. No. I choose to feel happy about this. That's just not how it works. And there's nothing I or anyone else can do about that. It's just a reaction. Oh. And I want to make a distinction between emotional responses and emotional reactions. I think emotional reactions make sense. I think they're completely natural, unavoidable, and I would even go so far as to say necessary. But I think a response is supposed to move past that initial reaction into a clearer, more logical state of mind, where you address why you feel the way you feel, and then make a plan as to how to not feel that in the future. You make me so mad, dude. But okay. So, what you're saying is that the involuntary anger and resentment is the uncontrollable reaction to the frustrating situation. But if I want to learn to effectively work my way out of these tunnels, I'll need to move past those reactions into a more level-headed response. And that response will be different for different people. But for me, I already identified how I would personally like to respond to these situations. And that's with comedy. Because like I said before, it's easier for me to deal with the frustration when I'm laughing about it. So I guess going back and trying to remember some of the solutions that I talked about before turned out to be pretty helpful. I won't lie though, I still don't feel energized or excited about what I have to do going forward. That I basically just have to keep trudging along, making adjustments and maintaining the hope that this will all eventually work out. But I do feel more capable of committing to this now than I did when I started writing this script. So as much as I don't want to admit it, this was undeniably helpful. And I guess after all this, there's really only one thing left to say. And ironically enough, I've already said it. So what am I gonna do? Am I going to yet again allow this undeniable reality to force me to give up on my goals and my aspirations? Or am I gonna finally listen to myself and accept that this was always gonna happen? That despite my best intentions and my best efforts, I was always gonna end up in another one of these tunnels feeling this way about something. And if I accept that fact, instead of dwelling on this feeling of resentment for even being in the situation in the first place, maybe I should focus on what I need to do to get out of it. And with that, I think I'm gonna end this one here. And yeah, I think this is gonna be the last video of 2021. Dude, I made 24 videos this year. And I don't know, man, I'm pretty proud of myself for that. Because like I've said in most of my videos, I'm a quitter. I have been quitting my entire life. Yes, I am a quitter. If you've seen my other videos, you know if there's one thing you can say about Fif Badaki, that he's a quitter. And so for me to not quit on this whole video making endeavor is pretty important to me. And I just hope that this will all lead to me being a more functional human being like the rest of you. But yeah, if you made it this far into the video, I can't thank you enough for hearing me out. Seriously, I mean that. I could say the words thank you every single day for the rest of my life, and that still wouldn't be enough to adequately convey the level of gratitude I feel towards you for allowing me to express some of my thoughts and feelings in this manner. It will never be enough. So truly and sincerely, I thank you. But anyway, with that said, I wish you all the very best going forward into this new year. Please take care of yourself and your loved ones, and I will see you in 2022. Peace. And be easy.